Thank you for tuning in to the Final Fantasy Entertainment and Podcast Network, Final Fan TV. You are watching Final Podcast 28. It has been a little over 24 hours since the first soldier orientation and that very hype final trailer for Intergrade. I am the warrior of hype, and joining me is the Faraga fighter, Vinny, and three very special Final Fantasy community members, TifaTheMonk, Dr. Ella, Ella, and ThisIsXel. How are you guys doing? Yes.
Hello.
Zell is in the bottom left, Ella in the middle or bottom middle, and TifaTheMonk in the bottom right. All right, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Now we only have Ella for a few more minutes, so Ella, we're gonna skip to some good juicy parts. You know, I want to ask you some questions. I want to ask you when it comes to Final Fantasy, all the information that we got, that hype trailer that we got yesterday. What was the most exciting part of that for you?
Personally, the most exciting part was knowing that I do not have a PS5 yet. Cannot actually play the game.
What a tragedy.
Every time a new trailer comes out, it's like a little jab that's like, you don't have a PS5 yet. Working on that. But I don't know. It's just weird seeing all this deep ground lore come up. Like the more that we see getting revealed, we saw Nero, which like I didn't even really remember. We have Vice, who's like a part of the battle system now for the original game. I don't know. It's just I'm not a huge deep ground fan. I wasn't like a huge fan of deep ground lore, but I think the character designs are really cool. So I guess I'm excited to see Nero and Vice and all that stuff come back. The most exciting part actually was Scarlet in Mech. That was just perfection.
Yes. Yeah. That boss fight looks really, really fun too.
Oh my god. I'm just so happy they put more of her in there. Yeah.
Nice. No. I was saying during our reaction, I think that might be just us just kind of spitballing ideas, but we were like, I think that might be the final boss of chapter 1 of the Yuffie DLC. Like they'll end it with that as the big boss.
And then so?
That maybe that's what I'm thinking.
I feel like they were leading up to Vice, but I don't know how they would even work that in.
I feel like that would probably be the chapter 2 because it's broken up in 2 parts. Like the Yuffie DLC is 2 chapters. Yeah,
I wasn't even aware of that. Okay.
Yep. So that's what I'm thinking. I think Vice might be in game of or you know what I mean of chapter 2 of Yuffie's DLC.
And then Genesis pops up and starts singing a gag song, and dances. Yeah.
Genesis is basically guaranteed at this point, confirmed.
Let's see if Gact was on board, because he was kind of difficult with getting that relicensed, I think. But I want to see Genesis like recite that annoying poem.
I could see
it'll be
it'll be recast. I think
they'll change his face. Yeah. Get rid of the likeness. I was wondering how they would put him in was it Ever Crisis or
in Ever Crisis?
Yeah, because Genesis he's gonna be in there. I'm just like, are they gonna change his face? What's gonna happen? I guess we'll find out.
It's just gonna wear a mask.
Yeah.
I think they're going to do a full recast. I think they'll do a full recast.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah. There was a Japanese pop star that I can't remember the name now, but recently posted like how he was like obsessed with Final Fantasy 11 and like obsessed with Final Fantasy, and I'm like, oh, there it is, Genesis confirmed. This is the new recast right here. It's a new pop star. Replace it. So it's all those really exciting stuff. I think Ramu. Oh my god.
Gandalf.
Badass. Gandalf. Who would win, Ramu or Gandalf? The age-old question.
What is the biggest beard, basically?
Those are the real serious questions. Those are the serious questions that we need the answers for. So when it comes to part 2, what are you most excited for? Like, what's one thing in part 2 that you just need to see you need to see happen?
Honestly, I know it's a little bit controversial, the whole like ending with Zach and him popping up, but I love Zach so much, and I don't like. I'm at the point where I don't care how shitty the plot ends up being. If like that's the case, I just want to see him like interacting with like Tifa and like Cloud and Midgar and like seeing Aerith and all that jazz, and like maybe seeing Sephiroth again. Oh my god, like the possibilities. I don't know. I just want to see Zach. That's
Whenever I think of Zach in Remake Part 2, like seeing Cloud again, I always think of the Spider-Man meme where there's the two Spider-Mans pointing at each other. They're just like, hey, I'm you.
I have no idea where they're going with that plot because I don't know. Cloud wouldn't be Cloud, I guess, if Zach was still alive. But
he wouldn't have the ability to have an identity crisis.
So he would just be like super normal and boring and like not deep and brooding. Yeah.
Like I guess the whole thing would be, I mean, there would still be a Zach in that timeline or something like that, or a Cloud in that timeline. But the Cloud that we're playing as has been through that. Whereas if Zach comes through, I don't know.
Yeah. So I am looking forward to it. But I am looking forward to how that will handle that mess. So I'm excited for Zach. Yeah.
So you just want to see Zach have a happy ending. Is that what you want to see that?
Yeah, and I do still want to see the main plot points remain the same. And makers have said like it'll generally hit the same main plot points, like super important ones at least. So I'm not too worried about it. I don't mind seeing an alternate reality if it means I get more Zach. I mean, why not?
Well, based off of what we saw with the Intergrade trailer yesterday, is anything like kind of like popped in your mind besides, I guess, the significant Dirge of Cerberus characters and stuff?
I don't know if you were on Twitter after that came out, but like the internet sleuths kind of went ham. They were like zooming into Yuffie's eyeball.
Yeah.
And, like one of them was like, I see Vincent like in the reflection. Well, I'm like, oh, he's asleep, but okay.
Yeah, I was like, he's in a box. But
like it's a helicopter. I don't know. There's so many theories already.
The thing was is that me and Vinny actually woke up and just was like, all right, don't even get on Twitter because we know that there was big news. Let's just react to this thing. And like we were just reacting to it, and I'm like, and it was just the initial thing. We were just like, always check the reflection of an eyeball. That because like Vinny was like, this is how we discovered Mecha Godzilla was going to be in Kong versus Godzilla.
Oh my god!
When I saw that trailer. When I saw that trailer, I was just like, I need to frame this and that because I love Godzilla, and I was just like, that's Mecha Godzilla. I now I know exactly how the movie's gonna play out, and it played out exactly how I thought.
But they had another like screen cap in there with like a screen of Mecha Godzilla, so I don't think you needed to zoom into that.
No, it was the first trailer before that.
It was the first.
Oh right, okay, that's intense. Yeah.
Then in the second trailer, they were like, they figured it out through an eyeball.
Figured it out. Yep.
Yeah, everyone's saying Sonon, is that his name? Sonon is going to unalive, I guess.
He's going to be unalive at the end of it.
So I'm like one of the only people who believes that Sonon has a chance of survival.
He looks too much like Zach.
Admittedly, it's not looking good, but
no, it's not.
Just to be different, I'm gonna say that Sonon survives, and we bump into him again in Wutai later.
I mean, like I'm not against that at all. I think that's pretty cool. He just kind of has this. All right, so here's where I feel like it's going to go, and this is why I feel like Sonon is going to die, or at least Yuffie's going to think that he's dead. If we're gonna kind of like maybe he pops back up in Wutai and he didn't die, I don't know. And like he's like, oh no, I escaped or something. But the way I look at it is, I feel like Yuffie needs a motivation to steal the party's materia, and also a motivation not to return home. So the way I feel like it's going to happen is I feel like Yuffie's going to go. She has a mission to get this ultimate materia. She brings Sonon along, and then she doesn't succeed. Like she does not get the materia. So she can't go home empty-handed. And not only that, she's not going to go home because she got like her entire avalanche cell killed plus Sonon killed. And then like, you know what I mean? Maybe that's what I'm thinking. like where she's just not going to go home empty-handed. So she's going to kind of hang around the Midgar area, trying to wait for somebody to come along so that she can trick them and steal their materia or something. What do you think?
Well, you can see in the trailer, I think Scarlet was the one who like murdered his sister or something. That's the vibe I got. So it might make sense that he is like in an epic battle with Mecha Scarlet, like and,
Mecha Scarlet.
and like ends up maybe not surviving and like has like a bittersweet ending or something. I don't know. I feel like they might pull something like that. But I do kind of want Yuffie to be at the beginning of part 2 and like steal their materia, and like that's how we start over and we're not like leveled up.
That's kind of I said in like I made a video called Calm, like what to expect in Calm, and brought up the idea that Yuffie steals the party's materia, and that's what, you know, Calm becomes a hub for like side quests and stuff, because you need to build back up your guild, you need to build up your materia and stuff like that. Although I don't know if that's what you want to do or not, you know, if that's what they're going to go for, but it could be the idea of like, hey, here's how we can work around the whole resetting the levels and stuff.
And it'll be interesting to see how they handle that, for sure.
The only thing that doesn't explain is how you go from like fighting Sephiroth to getting your ass kicked by coyotes. Like you can't steal your Sprang.
The Midgar
squirrel in the ground, man.
Yeah.
Ella, you were saying that you've been pretty vocal about your thoughts on Final Fantasy.
I guess something that's kind of off track that I would want to shout out is people complaining that Final Fantasy VII, especially after like the mini game and like the First Soldier Ever Crisis is coming out, that it gets too much love and it's having Square Enix neglect other games and IPs and all that. And I just wanted to put out there that it is the cash cow. I get that. But people do want these games. People do love Final Fantasy VII. And I do want to remind people that Square Enix has multiple teams that work on different games at once. Like the Final Fantasy 16 team, I believe, is a completely separate team from the 7 team. So it's not getting in the way of your game. And you don't need to hate on 7 because we get more content than say 6, which is also one of my favorites. But and less people know about it. It's just business at the end of the day. That's all I have to say.
I mean, the way they gotta have a really good strategy. If you think about it as, like you said, you have different business units here that are working on the games, different development units. So if you think about it as, okay, the people that are making Forsaken, you know, I mean, that's a completely different, you know, division. They could have worked on something for Final Fantasy, right? You know, like, so it's just kind of like you have Final Fantasy VII Remake developers, that unit working on Remake, which is great. You have the third unit working on Final Fantasy 14 and Final Fantasy 16. And you know, you're getting just a ton of Final Fantasy content, which is a win for everyone, right? So, and then plus I think Remake has been something that people have been asking for, begging for. I'm one of them for years.
Oh, for sure.
For years. So this is them answering us. If anything, Square Enix is listening, which is amazing. So
yeah, I appreciate it. I appreciate all of the FF7 content.
Me too.
There's no complaints. We have been waiting for quite a while, like, to be fair, and we're getting a lot in the next year and this year, so I am satisfied.
That's right, and we have a lot to talk about. And Ella, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm sorry. It was
so nice to have you on. Yeah.
Maybe
we can set something up for the future, and we'll have you back on.
For sure. Yeah, I would love to be back. All right. Enjoy the rest of the podcast. Bye, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for being here.
Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Okay. And now we're going to circle back. Now that we've talked a little bit about it, we've touched on a little bit of things here. I do kind of want to circle back to the Intergrade news that was talked about yesterday. In a Square Enix statement, new footage showcases the impressive PlayStation 5 graphics for Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade and the new content from Final Fantasy VII Remake Intermission, the episode Intermission, which follows Yuffie and her partner Sonnen on a dangerous mission to infiltrate Midgar and steal the Shinra most powerful materia. I noticed how they've in the official statement they took out the word ultimate materia. So it might not be, you know what I mean? Like, because a lot of people were kind of wondering if ultimate materia was the name of the materia, because everybody's like getting that kind of confused with Ultima materia. So it says most powerful materia in this new statement, which I thought was kind of interesting. I kind of wanted to bring that up. And then, okay, so this is a one thing I also wanted to read out of this quote. In Final Fantasy VII Remake episode Intermission, players will fight as Yuffie alongside Sonnen as they use fast and furious attacks. I'm watching that series, by the way. I'm ranking them. Attacks to team up in all new exciting battles against Shinra's Director of Advanced Weaponry Division, Scarlet, and Nero, an elite member or a member of the elite unit within Deep Ground known as the Civets. A new summon materia to call upon, Ramu, the fabled Lord of Levin, also newly appears. And finally, the trailer showcases the gameplay of Fort Condor, a tactical minigame playable in Final Fantasy VII Remake Intermission. All of that was really exciting yesterday. What did you guys think of that, the trailer? Now that I can talk to you, Tifa and Zell.
Well, the trailer looks phenomenal. Seeing the game in it's glory, 4K and 60 FPS, all that good stuff. The one thing that I have like gripe with is like what is Vice's role in the game is gonna be, because the Deep Crown stuff is post Advent Children. Like we know, it's not after they escape Midgar. It's not.
Yeah. It was happening though during like if we're going off of Dirge of Cerberus lore, like Deep Ground was there during, and things were going on in Deep Ground. So I guess now we're getting kind of a look at that. One thing I did notice was that Nero's arms were not bound. So there is something there.
I might add to that, Weiss and Nero are actually kind of technically introduced in Crisis Core. Their faces are not shown,
right?
But yeah, they're the ones who went and collected Genesis. So it's not really it's not really a retcon to have them show up, because these characters had already been established in Crisis Core lore.
Yeah,
I mean, and if you kind of look at FF7 Remake as kind of like a culmination of all the lore, like Najima, specifically said to Nomura that he wanted to integrate parts of, from all over the compilation into Remake. So this is probably the best and maybe even the only opportunity to show Dirge of Cerberus lore at this point in the game, because you're not really going to have an opportunity to delve into much of that once you leave Midgar.
Very true.
To me, I don't know. Like to me, it's not going to be coherent. I feel like Deep Ground is convoluted. Like Maximilian touched upon. It's like it's such a messy story, and how is it going to correlate to the original plot? That's going to be one hell of a accomplishment if they manage to do it. But also one more thing, if we know the Whisperers are gone now, anything could happen. Does that also play in part with the intermission stuff? Are there going to be different events happening because the Whisperers are gone now?
Well, they shouldn't be gone in intermission, because intermission is before they fight Fate. During Platefall. So we might still have, unfortunately, Whispers in intermission. But anything after, for part 2 on, there shouldn't be Whispers. So we might see Whispers. Maybe Whispers will, I don't know, play a big role in that eyeball scene that we saw. But I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Whispers, and I played Dirge of Cerberus, and like you said, it's not a coherent story. So
I think that's a big concern, right? That's a big concern for a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people who love the compilation are really extremely happy about this as well. I mean, you know, I mean, like on the flip side of this whole thing, like people who love the compilation lore, the or Dirge of Cerberus, and have been saying like they love Dirge of Cerberus against all odds. They're like, yes, you know what I mean? Like this is amazing. But what that means for me, I'm like, oh crap, that means this whole like digital transference of your soul and all this other stuff kind of exists, you know, is possible. And that kind of has me a little worried. And then Genesis, the implications of what Genesis could mean, also has me a little concerned as well. Whereas you're just kind of like, does this mean that Genesis could be on par with Sephiroth or even the greater threat?
Oh God, I hope not.
Right, and I think that's where the concerns come in.
My concern is like they're introducing all these like super powered, like really badass villains like Vice and Nero and everything, and they're all so powerful. I just don't want it to overshadow. I think Sephiroth should remain like the biggest threat, like like the one everybody's afraid of. And you know, I feel like Sephiroth should just come down. Like everybody's getting their ass kicked by Vice and Nero, and then Sephiroth comes down, just mutilates them, and says like, "I'm still daddy," and then flies away. And, like,
I'm still daddy.
I agree, and I think there should be more room for like fleshing out characters than just introducing more characters. Because here's the thing: if they introduce, let's say, Shulk and Shalua, that's gonna like interfere with like character growth and development of the other characters. So like there's something that I want to happen, and I think it will happen in Ever Crisis, is Sephiroth's past and origins. Like if they manage to tell a story before he became a soldier and what eventually led to his downfall, that will give like his character in Remake more richness to it. I feel we'll appreciate him more, and I wonder how different Sephiroth is going to be. Is he going to have like a redemption arc in FF7 Remake?
Oh no!
Don't say that, Zell.
No.
This is just speculation.
I know. Yeah, this is all speculation.
Yeah.
One thing that I actually was thinking about in this very moment, I was like, okay, wait, Yuffie, obviously an optional character, Vincent, optional character, very, very close ties to Dirge of Cerberus. How would you guys feel if they, and you know, like, as you were saying, Zell, you know, maybe this will take away from the character growth of others. Well, this is kind of being contained within this DLC, this intermission DLC. How would you feel if we get part 2 and it takes us up to or past Nibelheim? Let's just say you can go to Nibelheim, but you're not getting Vincent, right? You go through this, and part 2 ends, and then a year later you get episode Vincent, and then Vincent gives you more of this Dirge of Cerberus lore, more of these you know, you're fighting Shulk and stuff like that. Maybe something like that, whereas the Dirge of Cerberus lore is going to be there, but it won't be so impactful. It will only impact you know, Yuffie and Vincent in these circumstances. How would you feel about that?
I don't think that's going to be like essential, because that could affect the overarching story of F7, because they're separate.
Oh, it's already yeah.
Yeah, because if you're gonna add more convoluted lore to already convoluted lore, it's just gonna be messy. So I hope it's one contained, coherent story, and
That's fair.
They could add like references and like hints and like stuff like we could like refer us to like Vincent's past and stuff like that. That would be cool.
Okay. What about you, Tifa? What do you think? I love to. I'm just gonna call. It's great just calling you Tifa if I'm talking to Tifa.
Can I just butt in real quick?
Okay, go ahead.
So I just I read something on Vincent's lore. Vincent locked himself in Shinra Mansion for almost 20 years to atone for his sins from Lucretia. So all like they would have to change his lore if he is to be in, if he's doing anything.
Like he
if he's
shouldn't be in the
doing
eyeball.
Yeah. Well, he shouldn't be in the eyeball, and he probably won't have his own DLC unless it's like 20 years in the past when he was a Turk, because he locked himself away in the mansion for 20
Right.
years. So to have any type of DLC like what was Vincent doing during this time, it's gonna be a DLC of him sleeping. Or should
Oh
be a
no,
DLC.
okay. It's like you pay $20 just to see Vincent sleeping.
How would you feel about like rewriting his story, like reintroducing him, because he's gonna be a permanent member now, unlike the original. So as Yuffie, like how do you feel about reintroducing him? Have they given him a new story?
I'll briefly answer, then I'll flip it over to Tifa. But for me, like, okay, so when I was talking about the DLC, I was actually kind of referring to like the DLC would start with you going down into the basement, getting him out of the thing, blah blah blah, and then Vincent kind of does his thing. Or I love the flashback idea. That's actually kind of cool. You get a little more background on who these Vice and Nero, and you kind of get a little bit more of what's going on there,
and how he becomes a weapon.
Yeah, so Tifa, would you like to answer that one? Like, how would you feel about all that?
Honestly, I would be fine with just encountering Vincent the way we always did. I mean, my sort of thoughts were that once we entered Nibelheim, there would be some sort of cut scene or something that would kind of force you to go into the basement and locate Vincent. Like, he's not going to be optional anymore, obviously. So my thoughts would be that there would just be some sort of cutscene sequence, or where you're just kind of, or some sort of mission where you're kind of forced to go down into the basement, and then you locate Vincent, and it kind of plays out similar to how it did in the OG. Like, I would prefer that to digging up all this other stuff. Like, I think that the Dirge of Cerberus lore should honestly just be limited to this DLC, if you want my honest opinion, because Dirge is not good. It's really not, and it's
there
not.
You go. She said it.
Popular. Like, I understand Nojima wanting to incorporate it in, because he's been working on all of this stuff for the past 24 years. I mean, he's been the main guy writing the scenario and everything, and he was the one who put pressure to incorporate all of this subsequent lore into Remake, as because this is like the crowning this is the final entry into the compilation. This is the big crowning achievement. And so everything all together. That being said, I would be happy just to kind of limit it to just this one DLC, and you can reference it later on, but like Zell was saying, I don't want it to overshadow the main story. And the main focus of Remake should be the main story, should be on the main cast. And if you want to throw in these references, it's fine, but temper it. Kind of like how, Crisis Core wasn't pushed super hard in part 1, but there was lots of references to it. You pass by a poster that has Benora Whites on it. You run into these Shinra grunts, and they're like, oh, let's go get Kunsol, and just little references like that don't overshadow the main story, but still reminds you, oh yeah, this happened.
Yeah. Okay. I like that. I'm so on board with what you just said. I'd much rather have it that way.
Do you think like a forced Vincent mission would do you think we would still get, that the Shinra safe? Are we still gonna fight Lost Number? All of those things, because that's when that one safe is where Vincent's introduced. You get Red 13's Cosmo memory, and you get Odin as a summon. So that one safe had a lot of juicy stuff in it. Do you think we're gonna get something similar to that? Because Red already learns Cosmo memory. Doesn't he already have Cosmo memory?
I think he used Stardust Ray or something like that.
Oh, he used Stardust Ray. But Odin gets introduced there, and then Lost Number, for anybody who's not really ready for it, is a pretty difficult boss fight. So do you think we're gonna get something?
I hated that boss fight. I hated that safe. I really hated that safe. Especially trying to play it on mobile. Like, I've played FF7 on my phone, That safe is like really impossible to open on your phone. Like I hate it. I gave up on it. Like I
can imagine
on that particular playthrough. After like the 50th time, I'm like, you know what, screw this. I'm done. I love you, but I gotta go.
Real quick, techno commitment. Bum, 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 bum. Come on, man. Nobody hates that theme. What?
Oh, God.
I love that.
You're giving me nom flashbacks right now. What the heck?
So in the chat though, they were saying that one of the most anticipated, seems like everybody's saying the most anticipated is going to Junin for the military march. What do you guys think of that?
I love the music.
I feel like I'm like one of the only people who never did master that marching thing. Like I always get sent the grenade.
Oh man, I mean I loved it, you know. I did it right. I was like the best of the show, so it's no big deal or anything. So one thing I do want to what's that, Zell?
I was like, you're flexing on us right
now.
Dude,
they were super impressed with me. So so this is coming from the sources Audrey. She translated an interview. Nomura says, I see comments, people asking questions like, what's going on with part 2? I knew that this would be asked. So this morning before 9 a.m. actually, I called Katase and asked him, hey, can I at least talk a little bit about part 2? And he said, before I knew it, this turned out to be a huge mess. And he goes on to talk about how he needed to get approval from so many different people. So what he does say is that what I can say, though, is that the game's development is going smoothly. We will make announcements when the time is right. But for now, what I can reveal is that Cloud will be running around a lot of nature. The atmosphere will be quite different from part 1. So I think people will really enjoy it. So basically, we got information that we knew was going to happen, but it's kind of exciting, right? We know that we knew that Cloud would be outside, right? We knew he was going to be in the nature, but it's exciting to think about it, right? So, open world or open area is a question that I've had on my mind for so long, and I say that open world is going to be near impossible. I say don't get your hopes up for it. This is just me. After seeing when you see the opening, the opening of Final Fantasy VII Remake with the bird flying through, that bird is only flying through the Midgar area, and that is massive. There's no way they're turning that into a fully playable open world.
If they make it open world, part 2 is stopping at Costa del Sol. There's no way they're fitting all of that in one.
Hey, I would be fine with the first continent. You know what I mean? Like I'd be fine with if the continent looked like that. Sure. I'm good with that. I want to ride my chocobo all day. You know what I mean? So what do you guys think of that? Are you excited for? How are you looking for exploration outside of Midgar? Like what's on your mind? What do you want, and what do you want to see?
For me personally, like make it wide, add open spaces.
Okay.
If we go on the rails and we go from point A to point B, like add stuff in between, make us do like side quests that are meaningful, that tie into the characters and to flesh them out more. And something else that I want to happen is like rewarding the exploration. Like if you remember in the OG, the materia is scattered, the summon materia, so you have to go look for the materia in the open world. So I wonder if this time we have to search for Knights of the Round or look for Leviathan in that manner, because I don't want it to be strictly VR, like the summon stuff. And that's kind of my only hope. Like I want them to reward exploration, and I want wide linearity. I don't want open world bloated with so many side missions which could derail you from the story and like shifts your focus. So make it like strike a balance is my only hope.
Okay, that's fair. like for me, it's just like if to evoke that feeling that you got from playing Final Fantasy, gated open world kind, you know what I mean? Like let's like restrict them with mountain ranges that you can't cross until you get a chocobo or a high wind or something like that. But I like that, like open, but you're gonna go kind of where we want you to go. And then at the end, like near the end game, you can take your high wind and just explore, do the mini games, do the side quests and stuff. So keep it focused and then open it up little by little. So what about you, TifaTheMonk? What do you think?
I'm pretty much of the same thought. I don't want it super open world because I would prefer a more mission oriented, because I want the story to progress. I don't want to be stuck 5 games in and we still haven't finished Remake. So I'm fine. I don't want it to be like where there's no open world at all, but like Zell was saying, strike a healthy balance. I think I even heard in a previous interview that Nomura had said that he wanted it to be a mission oriented story, that you can travel from point A to point B, and I think it would be good to have some open areas where you can explore, locate materia, grind, level yourself up by, smashing some monsters, whatever you got to do. And then, my hope is I really want Remake to go out in 3 parts. I think that would be like the perfect amount. I don't want to be 4 or 5, 6 games. You're gonna start losing me after a while,
So if you're saying a 3-part system, where do you feel like part 1 or part 2 would end?
I would actually hope that it would end around the Northern Crater. I know a lot of people are saying, like, I ran a poll yesterday, and it's like the majority of people seem to think like the Forgotten City, like right lose Aerith. I am of the belief that the Northern Crater would be a better stopping point, because not only are you not ending it on like a really tragic note, like, oh, you just lost a main character, oh, we'll see you again in 2 or 3 years, good luck. No, I think ending it at the Northern Crater, you still leave it on a kind of like a cliffhanger, because you just lost Cloud, and Tifa and Boo are getting captured by Shinra, and the weapons are loose, and then you start part 3 with Tifa as your main character and trying to escape from Shinra. And that would be like the perfect starting point for your next game. And then, you look out the window and there's meteor, and then boom, part 3 starts.
Like also, okay, so part 2 kind of, I like that, where it almost has a Mass Effect 2 style thing, where you've been talked about the Reapers coming, and then all of a sudden at the end of parts 2, the Reapers are showing up. So if you ended with part 2, a remake, and the meteor appear, is approaching the planet, that's pretty cool. I like that. That would be really hype.
An awesome like cliffhanger. It would bring like the players that are kind of new to the franchise and be like, ooh, I wonder what's going to happen next.
Yeah. Well, so for to kind of touch back when you were like, don't end it on a low note. It would, and Final Fantasy's really big on Star Wars, harnessing that Star Wars stuff. If you end it with Aerith dying and you find the entire party at the lowest of lows, that's kind of how you end Empire Strikes Back. That's what makes a really great trilogy. You end the second part at the lowest of lows. And then I don't know. I think that I feel like that's the moment that everybody's kind of anticipating, whether or not she lives or whether or not she dies. People are just really anticipating that moment in particular. And if you get to that moment, you've pretty much explored every continent except for, I think, the northern continent. I don't think you've gone. I think you go to Bone Village, but that's just that's just the bottom of it, the bottom half of it. So at that point, you've explored the entire world.
Later.
What's that?
I said you don't go into Gaia's Cliff until. Yeah,
exactly. So after the Sleeping Forest. So it kind of like at that point you've explored most of the world. So That's how much resources and time would have to go into it for it to end at the Sleeping Forest. You like, I don't know if people like realize that, but they literally have to develop the entire world at that point. Which is daunting, and it makes you think like, okay, if that's going to be the case, is this game really going to come out in the next year or two? Like, when is this game going to come out? And if they go with like, okay, we just want to get these games out to you quicker. I mean, I like what Vinny said about the ending at Costa del Sol. Like, if you take the ship, you fight Genovo, that's kind of a big thing. And I'm sure they'll go wild with it like they did with with part 1. Like, but yeah, I love what you said about the meteor coming down. That would be ideal. I think 4 parts. Maybe the third part could end with the meteor coming down.
I also don't want to be like, in a 55 and up community when the final game is coming out. Like I want to enjoy this. I want to enjoy this now. I don't want to lose my interest in it. So I hope it's not like 5 parts.
Yeah. Well, I think like we have to keep in mind this is a remake. Like everything, like there are cutscenes, there are mocap, voice lines, and all that. So all of these things, like if you go to Nibelheim and then Costa del Sol and then Calm and then all these locales, like that will add volume and extend the length of the game. So I wonder how sizable part 2 is going to be with all of these things, because this is a remake at the end of the day. It's not the original 7 where all of these things happen quickly.
Right. That's true. They can take the story wherever they will take the story wherever they want. Yeah. Actually, speaking of that, TifaTheMonk had posted a few polls on your Twitter, and one of them was, what is your overall prediction for the following parts of Final Fantasy VII Remake? Do you think it will stick somewhat close to the original plot for the most part, or will it completely be changed into something unrecognizable? 77% said that it feels like it will stick to close to the original. And then 22% says completely different. That's out of 271 votes. Tifa, I want to know your thoughts on that question, because you asked the question, but I kind of want to hear what your opinion on that is.
Honestly, it's somewhere in the middle, because okay. I do think, because I'm judging this based on statements made by the developers, and as well as judging how part 1 played out, and just kind of figuring it out from there. Obviously there's some changes. Obviously they're fleshing the characters out, they're adding new elements and stuff, and all the developers have said that they have a lot of respect for the source material. And that and Katase says, please assume that FF7 will play out the way it always has.
Don't lie to me, Katase.
You can take that with a grain of salt, or you can take him at his word. Really it just depends on whether or not you want to trust the words of a developer or not. This wasn't just some offhanded comment either. This was a statement he made in the Ultimania. So it's not just he's not just making some offhanded comment to the media. You have to understand that as well.
A well thought out statement that he's trying to say.
How do you feel about Hamaguchi being the director now? Nomura is not the director anymore, like, apparently.
Yeah. What made me excited about that was, okay, so I was excited about what he said. He said that he was very inspired by Horizon Zero Dawn, and the way they handled open world and how beautiful and diverse it was. And I'm like, man, that makes me really excited for what you might be doing with Remake. Like, if you're inspired by that, so that has me excited. But then on the other hand, this is the same guy that worked on the 13 trilogy, which was kind of like, I mean, it was good, but it kind of goes a little wacky. I mean, it definitely goes, you can see that kind of his work, his hand is in this for sure, for Remake. So I'm kind of cautiously optimistic still, even with the change of directors. And Katase's still involved. Like he's still the head honcho of it all. It feels like. So I don't think much is going to change. You know what I mean?
I
And
echo the
still
same thoughts.
Yeah. Okay. So same thoughts. Okay.
And
So
to add to that, too, a lot of people are, kind of hyping up this, changing of the deck chairs or whatever. But from what I can understand, that Nomura basically said that it doesn't really change the way things were, because even though he was in name the director, he had already kind of given a lot of the responsibilities to Hamaguchi beforehand. So this is basically just a formality at this point. The things are pretty much remain the same, according to what he said.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah,
it's not
I think so as well.
Cataclysmic shift in the developers that a lot of people are making it out to be.
Okay.
And
yeah, so things are still kind of. I don't think things are going to change that drastically, like you're saying.
No.
So a poll for science, TifaTheMonk. How much do you? How many of you actually believe Aerith will survive Final Fantasy VII Remake? I love that you did these polls, because I'm like, you know what? You just basically just gave us topics. I love it. So you had 588 votes on this. How many of you actually believe Aerith will survive? 83.8% says she gonna die. 16 she gonna die.
Well, here's what's gonna happen, right?
14% says she live.
It's already foreshadowed in the remake that Aerith won't be with them anymore. But here's what I think is gonna happen. Aerith is not gonna die the same way. Sephiroth is not gonna like jump from out of nowhere to stab her. No, that's not gonna happen. They're gonna catch us off guard. That's how I feel. Like
Cloud kills her this time.
Because if they make it
nobody stops him. Cloud actually goes through with it and just kills her.
because think about it. If they make it predictable, I don't think it will evoke the same emotions that we felt from the OG. That's why I think it's gonna be like very unpredictable.
Can you imagine that? How unpredictable that would be? Because everybody would be like, okay, yeah, Cloud's, like, oh, he's in his mind. He's not gonna do it. He's not gonna. And then just stabs him right. Like, wait, what? That would be pretty insane.
To kind of go off, a friend of mine on Twitter, I Ain't Your Bruh, she actually came up with a theory herself regarding Zack, where Sephiroth, how he can take the form of other people, or Genova Roth, however you want to call him. I Ain't Your Bruh actually came up with the theory that Sephiroth takes on the form of Zack. So when Aerith goes off by herself to go pray at the temple, she encounters this vision of Zack, and it's actually Sephiroth, and maybe that's how she dies. Like he lures her away.
All right, bruh. I ain't your bruh. All right, bruh. I ain't your bruh, but bruh. All right.
I feel like that would piss off a lot of the Zack supporters. Like all those people. I think that would like cause a riot for all the people that are like Team Zack. And
Team Zack comes like, oh my god, I want like Ella.
I personally
have a happy
ending.
ending.
That, but it does sound like something that Nomura would pull. Like it's just dark and twisted enough that I don't know. They might pull something.
I'd be cool with it. I'm cool as long as she dies. I feel like that. It just I'm on the side where I feel like I really want her to die. I don't want it to be Tifa or anybody else. It needs to be Aerith for story purposes, for me at least.
There's a demographic of people out there who believe that Cloud actually drowned Aerith because she was still alive.
She's like, excuse me. Well, Cloud kind of just, he's just walking across a deep, water. Like he just, just casually when he drops.
That would be, if that's real, that would be comical. Like I would genuinely laugh.
Well, what do they say? They say the angle of the sword would have caused paralysis, and a dead body wouldn't just sink to the bottom like that. So
speaking of Zack, TifaTheMonk also had a poll. Will Zack survive? And 81% says we're losing him again, so we're gonna bring him back just for him to die. And I think this is somebody said one time, they were like, how crazy would it be? I can't remember who it was. I feel like it was on, it might've even been Techno. Call me out if it was you. It might've been Techno who said this, but how crazy would it be if like that was all we saw? Like, Zach, there's your happy ending. He lives in that alternate universe, but we're never going to go back and explore it. It's just, and I was like, dude, that would be pretty wild of them to just show something that crazy to not explore it afterwards.
People would be waiting for it for every single part. They'd be like, all right, when are we going to see more Zach? And then they never get it. And then that's just going to be something that people are going to be very upset about.
Yeah. I don't know, but I heard that, but I feel like, them showing it was purposeful, obviously with Stamped and all that other stuff that they got going on. I believe they are setting up something. So Zach being alive, let's just assume that, yes, he is indeed alive at the end of this, and he's going to have some kind of role. Does he just keep on going and then die? I just I don't know what they're doing, and that concerns me as well. I mean, I'm not excited. It's so weird, like to not be excited. Like I'm more just like, what are you doing type thing. Please don't let Zach kind of come in there and swoop in and be the hero. Like Cloud is the hero of my story. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, so what do you guys think? What do you think? What are you thinking of Zach overall?
Well, this is gonna sound crazy, but in the case of like timelines intertwining with each other, let's say Zach sees the real Aerith and Cloud, like what they look like in the future. But what if over time his soul starts to deteriorate, and like over the course of the game?
Fantasy. Yeah, that sounds very Final Fantasy. Like your soul is deteriorating because you're not supposed to be here.
Yeah. I know it sounds crazy, but
no, it sounds very Final Fantasy to me. What do you think, Tifa? You asked the question, but I'm kind of curious. Is Zach living or dying?
As much as it breaks my heart, I really don't see them letting him stay alive. I think we're going to lose him again. I think they're going to find some way to twist the knife on that. He might not have even made it off of that hill. Like some of my friends are pointing out that, as soon as the camera cuts away, what if he gets shot,
I hope that's how it starts. Like, just like that's how part 2 starts.
And the only thing that kind of makes me think about that is what was something that was very pointed in the OG. The very beginning part, like pretty much all of disc 1, was a lot of red herrings. You're led to believe things that aren't true. You think that you start off the game thinking that, President Shinra is going to be your main enemy. He gets killed off before you even leave Midgar. You're led to believe that Cloud is an ex-soldier. Turns out that's not true. His version of the Nibelheim incident is not true. You're led to believe a lot of things that aren't true. So the developers have said that they want to invoke very similar feelings in the player that they experienced while playing the OG. How can you accomplish that with people who are already familiar with the story? You throw them new things. You make them believe certain things. For example, apparently they were successful in fooling some people and thinking that Aerith might survive this time. Now they show us, Zach possibly being alive, only for those things too, where they end up dying again anyway. Yeah. So there's a lot of mystery and a lot of questions that are being invoked in the players, kind of similar to how in the OG, when you were playing through the first part, you had a lot of questions and there was a lot of unsolved mysteries that you were trying to figure out as a player. If that makes any sense.
That makes a lot of sense to me, honestly. And it's the first time I've heard that take, and I love it. Like it's kind of like a thought provoking, you know what I mean? I like that. I like that idea where they're trying to evoke the same feelings, but hey, the only way we can do that, like you said, is to throw these things at you. Red Oak says evil Zach, and I think that kind of goes back to when you were saying Genova Zach or Sephiroth Zach. What? I don't know what we're gonna call it. But like if Sephiroth takes over Zach, is that what you were saying? That would be interesting. Evil Zach fighting Zach. I don't know.
Now we're
But-
getting into Kingdom Hearts territory.
I was just thinking, I really hope this alternate universe thing doesn't make you like at the end of it. They're like, yeah, so Roxas was the bad guy at Final Fantasy VII the whole time.
The Roxas. Yeah, did you play Kingdom Hearts? Because Roxas is the villain.
Oh no.
Where do you think? Oh, we've already talked about that. Yeah, you did. 51% said that it would end in Forgotten City Part 2. Let's see. After seeing that last Intergrade trailer, do you think Sonnen will survive? 82% says no, he dies. He dies. So for me and Vinny, did we talk about this earlier?
No, we didn't.
Okay, so me and Vinny, we reacted to it, and at first we thought we saw the reflection in Yuffie's eyes. We were convinced that it was Sonnen. Vinny might still be convinced it's Sonnen.
I think it's Sonnen, but Daniel brings up I think it's Sonnen only because I don't want to seem like I'm bandwagoning off of Daniel at this point.
You're good, dude.
So I'm gonna go with Sonnen, but I think Daniel has it.
Yeah, I said Kate Sith. Very, very similar imagery to when Kate Sith goes to the edge and he bangs on the looking down at the platefall. When I was making the thumbnail, when I was doing the reaction, I was like, oh, I wonder if it's Kate Sith, because he looked down at it and it kind of like lines up. Then I made the thumbnail and I was like, oh my God, like the imagery is really, really close.
It's like the same fire.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of got into it a little bit there, where I think it's Kate Sith looking down, and it's not Sonnen, but we were kind of thinking Sonnen impaled by something at the end. But what made me say no was I was like, well, if Sonnen was dying or dead, I feel like Yuffie would be closer to him. Like she wouldn't be like standing far enough away where the reflection is in her eye. She would be like maybe holding him or I don't know. What do you guys think?
That's somebody's blood. That's not hers. That's somebody else's blood.
And it's not the robot Kate Sith.
It's not. It can't be robot Kate Sith's blood. Although that would be a pretty funny trope if like Kate Sith dies in every part because he's a robot.
Yeah, he just dies in every part
and comes back.
What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, all signs are alluding to his like conclusion of him dying, but we have to remember this is a remake. Are whispers still around?
At this part, yes. At this point, they would be.
At this point, yes.
I mean, it's open for different possibilities. I don't think it's like he could die, he could survive. We never know. But this is Nomura, and this is like Final Fantasy. Anything could happen. Like it could be tragic. He could survive. We never know. But like the foreshadowing and like maybe they'll make us feel like get more attached to Sonnen and then kill him off. Yeah, that's what they usually do.
Well, I think I do remember TifaTheMonk saying that she's one of the only ones who think that Sonnen's going to actually live, and we'll see him later on.
Yeah, well, this was my first initial Sonnen lives theory, where Yuffie believes that he dies, which would because I know a lot of people, including I think Maximilian, would have made the observation where Yuffie's personality is a little bit different in Intergrade. She seems a little bit more upbeat, a little bit more cheerful. Whereas in OG, she came across as a lot more annoying and almost has like a bit of a cynical air to her. So obviously, possibly the devs are maybe creating this sort of Intergrade story to show how her personality might possibly change after this supposed or quite possibly this tragedy happens to her, where she loses somebody close to her, or at least believes that she did. Yeah. So either way, I think whether Sonnen dies or whether he lives, Yuffie is going to believe that he's dead. And that's what I think.
Okay.
So I don't think to point out what you guys were saying earlier, I don't think that's Sonnen. I think that's just a pile of rubble. Honestly, I'm of the belief that it's a pile of rubble that she's looking at. But it could very possibly be that Sonnen was under the plate when it fell, and that's why she drops on her knees and screams, Crisis Core Cloud style.
They have ketchup
So-
on their faces.
So, so my little side theory is somehow Sonnen escapes, but he's of course separated from Yuffie, and he ends up back in Wutai. And later on, when you get to Wutai, I don't know, part 2 or part 3,
Okay.
you have Sonnen when you go up the pagoda. I think I'm pronouncing that right. And Yuffie's doing her little side quest where she's getting her limit break or whatever, and Sonnen is one of the boss fights there. Like she's reunited with him in Wutai.
Kind of tie it back in. I like that.
Actually down with
that way, you can kind of have a callback to this character without him completely overshadowing the main story. But it'd be like, oh, this is a nice little reference to Intergrade or whatever.
All right, I like that. That's cool, and also kind of anchoring Wutai and Yuffie's story to something we've seen before. That's interesting. I like that. But yes, as you said, I think she's going to at least believe that she lost everything. Because I feel like there's got to be a reason why she didn't return home. She didn't want to return home empty-handed, as I said at the beginning of the show. Let's see. Do we have any more topics we can talk about when it comes to future Final Fantasy VII and Intergrade stuff? You guys have anything else you want to add to it?
Let us play Cloud in his dress, please. Let us give Tifa her dress too, and let us play as them.
$5 DLC skins.
Actually, and I encourage so many people to do this. Go to after the show. Maybe Vinny can put it, or we can put it in a link later. Written by Zell. That's XEL.wordpress.com. Now, Zell, you wrote up a really, really well-written and interesting article, Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 2, Hopes and Wishes. And this was very well written. And one of the things that you said was actually let us change costumes. And one thing for me was like, when we get to the snowy areas, I feel like, Tifa's got to wear something a little more warm, right? I think they're going to, and this is just me, but I'm thinking that we're going to see different outfits. And it has to maintain that classic look, but also at the same time giving us the option to see these characters in different costumes. Obviously, it was a huge hit with the wall market dresses. So I think it's possible we could see wardrobe changes and stuff like that due to the whatever climate they're in. So if it's if in the winter place, maybe Cloud is wearing a little more Advent Children-ish type thing where it's got long sleeves or something. That would be interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. But being able to play in like the dress or something like that, I would be cool with in-game stuff. Like, so once you beat the game and you've already experienced the story, where it wouldn't be distracting, like you can just swap the outfits.
I mean, if it's too forced, Square could make it a DLC. I mean, they're sleeping on a lot of money. People would buy that like immediately.
Vincent Graymore says Costa del Sol swimsuits, and I'm like, Hojo swimsuit is basically his lab coat, so he's good, right? I'm obviously getting a tan. Do we go, and what else did you write in this, man? I don't want to read all of it because please read this article. It's very good. Robust aerial combat was one of the things. So like bringing a little bit more into that. Yeah.
I feel like one of the biggest flaws in the remake is aerial combat. Mm-hmm. Like the hitbox of some skills don't hit upwards. And when you have aerial enemies, it's kind of a struggle if you don't have magic. So I would like for part 2 to have more aerial combat focus, give them like more materia that focus on that aspect, maybe skills, or maybe Yuffie could throw her shuriken. Hell, introduce Sid. He's a dragoon. He could
you gotta nail that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying, like, I hope that's one of the important things that they could fix in the part 2 of Remake.
Makes sense. All right, so if you guys are done with that, we can move on to kind of recapping what happened with First Soldier, the battle royale game, and then after that, I encourage everybody watching right now to stay tuned because we have a big announcement. It's going to be awesome. Me and Vinny are really excited about it. So First Soldier, I'm sorry. Do you guys have anything else you want to add to part 2 or Intergrade?
No, I think I've got pretty much my thoughts out.
Cool. All right. Now, did you guys watch the orientation for First Soldier, the gameplay? Did you watch that by any chance?
I skimmed through that.
You skimmed through it?
No, I suffered.
Oh, you suffered through.
So I woke up. I'm on a Pacific time, and
boy, 4 a.m.
morning, thinking that there's going to be. I thought there was going to be a lot more Intergrade stuff than there was, but it turned out it was mostly just this very long, out round table talk, which I don't understand why game developers think that that's like an appealing way to showcase a game when I'd much rather just watch footage of it. But yes, the thing where I'm just gonna say that.
Okay. I mean, for me, it's I think it's the way it's presented would be like you said. I'm always about like the classic E3 where I see the developer come on stage and talk about it and then show the game. I really love that style of things. I don't like the whole trailer fest thing like that E3 does. So I actually appreciate the developers sitting around, but I think they did take a little. It was like an hour and a half or 2 hours. And it's just like, okay, just play the game, talk about it as you're playing it, give us information. And maybe since we had a little bit of a language barrier, that it just kind of was a little rough because I was watching the GameSpot, I think it was on GameSpot, but it was the English dubbed over, and the two people that were dubbing over it were kind of like just kind of talking very randomly and not giving us much.
I was tuned into Max Dude's stream, and I think he was watching the same one with the two translators.
Yes.
He ended up cutting out like about 20 minutes. He's like, I can't do it, chat. You guys are losing me. He said, if there's any Intergrade news, I'll react to it later, but I can't do this. And he did it. He ended up cutting out like 20 minutes before the stream went to Intergrade. And so I ended up hopping on Audrey's stream after that. But they couldn't hold Max. He was done.
Yeah, it needs to be, man. I would be more than happy to be your hype man, Square Enix, if you need me to. Because I actually was kind of hype about it. I enjoyed what I saw, at least of the gameplay. It's got the battle royale. Now I'm kind of throwing in Spellbreak into the mix of like the mixes of different battle royales. I don't know if anybody's ever played Spellbreak, but it kind of had that feeling with the materia system. So real quick, registration period is open now, so go ahead and register if you guys want to get into it. And the play period will start June 1st through June 7th. And then you can find all of that information on ffviifs.com. So yeah, Final Fantasy or FF7 FS. And then let's see. I just kind of want to browse through a little bit, skim through a recap of this. It has a wide wield and arsenal of weapons and magics. Master class based traits and abilities. So what you see is you'll have job classes rather than picking a hero or whatever. You can go warrior, sorcerer, or monk. You master their unique traits and abilities. You take down monsters, so you farm monsters at the same time. So it's PvP VE in this battle royale. Experience unique Final Fantasy battle royale. So ride on a chocobo. You can actually ride on a battle chocobo where the chocobo can actually kick people and you can kill people with the chocobo. Interesting. And then you can actually call upon Final Fantasy summons like Ifrit, and use materia to harness powerful spells, customize outfits, emotes, skins, and more. And then one thing that I picked up that wasn't in the official statement, controller support is planned, which is a huge deal. I know a lot of people had questions about that. So they do have plans for controller support on the phone. So good stuff there. The materia pickups reminded me of Spellbreak. The fire was ranged. Blizzard stationary was basically a stationary turret. Arrow allowed you for a quick getaway with a high jump. lot like Spellbreak. And then Comet, the Comet material was an AoE effect or AoE airstrike, like a just extremely devastating, and took a huge chunk of MP, which each ability has an MP cost. So all of that I thought was pretty exciting, but since you suffered through it, I'm not going to suffer through talking about it tonight or today. But, yeah, I'm actually really excited for it. But if you're watching this, you can count on Final Fan TV to be streaming this. We're gonna go hardcore with this. We want to be your source for First Soldier, even if it sucks. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it for you.
I love playing Battle Royale, so this is just another one for me to play.
Exactly. And when they said controller support, I was like, all right, well, done. Thank you. That's all I wanted to know. And it was like it wasn't even part of the announcement. It's just one of the translators said, oh yeah, controller support is planned. And they moved on. I was like, no, controller support planned is the big deal. That's the big news. So that's it for do you guys have any comments on the Final Fantasy First Soldier Battle Royale game?
I remember when First Soldier trademark was like circling around the internet, everybody was thinking it's either Zack's story or a prequel that focuses on like Sephiroth's origins. But then it was revealed that it's a battle royale. Everyone's like, oh, nobody expected that. But no, yeah, I'm not too keen on it, but I'll check it out. I'll see maybe if there are like bits and pieces of lore integrated in there.
Well, don't even like, oh man, the story. I don't even want to talk about it because it's so ridiculous what they're trying to say. They have environments that are 30 years into the future, and they were like, oh yeah, since it's a VR simulator, it can simulate the future. And I'm like,
oh no.
Like, just leave it alone. You didn't have to say that. You just didn't even have to say that. Just like, we don't care if we're playing on these maps. It doesn't have to be story like oriented.
Right.
But yeah, so what they were saying was just really whack. I didn't like it. But what to touch on your point were about First Soldier being about Sephiroth and stuff like that. Ever Crisis is going to talk about First Soldier.
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting. I think that's where we're going to get our good stuff.
Ever Crisis looks shockingly amazing. Like the sprites and the art style looks so freaking good.
Yeah, right. I'm really excited for Ever Crisis too, man.
Although I'm a little like concerned about microtransactions. I wonder how that's gonna be.
Fair.
I think the microtransactions are gonna be mostly like,
cosmetics.
Or like playable characters that like you'd want to like Aerith was on that like opening bombing mission. It's like get characters where they don't belong type of deal. Maybe
as long as it's in combat. Like I think we talked about this a little bit. As long as it's only in combat and not story wise. So like the City Opera Omnia style, whereas you can bring in Noctis, but he's not actually part of the story or something. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think it'd be pretty cool to have Waka throw a blitz ball at Sephiroth every once in a while.
So you're the one-winged angel, eh?
Yeah, right. Eh?
Yeah, a one-winged angel, yeah. All right. So yes, Red Oak, it is a money grab, plain as day. And the reason why it is a money grab for sure is because here we are, Final Fan TV just announced that we will be playing it so much on Twitch. So it's just constant promotion, easy. Like if you can come up with a battle royale where people are like, oh yeah, do you play Final Fantasy VII or you play First Soldier? Then people are going to hopefully get into that world. It's easily like them trying to reach out to a broader audience for sure.
I mean, to be fair, like I want to touch upon like the money grab thing, because aside from FF14, FF7 is their cash cow at this point. It's their own series. Like you see all these compilation and all like the Ever Crisis and First Soldier, all of these like parts of the FF7 like timeline. So it's like I wouldn't complain because a lot of people were asking for FF7 stuff for a while.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that one. You will not be able to defeat ruby weapon on boss rush without weapon gotcha. Is what Vincent Kramer says. I hope it's not locked behind like paywall for abilities and weapons. Whereas I hope it's more like what Vinny was saying, like, hey, if you want Waka to throw a blitz ball at Sephiroth, you're gonna have to pay $5 or something like that to get Waka, or something like that. I'm cool with that. If you want to put Advent Children Cloud costume on while you're doing it, that's fine with me too. If you're gonna pay for it, go for it. Cosmetics and like guest
as long as it's optional and not detrimental to the progression of the story.
Yeah, perfectly said. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. All right. Yeah.
Sorry. From what I could gather, that's pretty much what the developers had said was going to be the case with Ever Crisis. Like, they're not going to charge for, chapters or anything like that. It's going to be, weapons and alternate outfits and stuff like that, which, that's, I mean, they're going to have to make money somehow. So if the app itself is going to be free and the chapters are going to be free, they're going to have some sort of, micro transactions that keep them afloat, as it were.
Yeah. I mean, definitely 100%. They got to pay for the development somehow. I would have paid for each episode, to be honest. Like every month I'd be like, yeah, $5, sure, I'll play it. Yeah, so all right, guys, I want to get on to, I know we were trying to keep it under an hour and a half. I'm sorry about that. So I want to go on to the big announcement that we have. Final Fan TV has big announcements right now, Chad. I hope you're excited. But before we get to that, Zell, Tifa, do you guys have anything else that you want to add to this conversation?
Well,
go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Handle making agile game. I am still like, how are they going to pull that off? Because with Ever Crisis, it's going to be, before Crisis, which, was already a mobile game. That one probably will be easy for them. Crisis Core, which I'm excited for. The OG, I'm also excited for. Dirge Cerberus, I'm not excited for. And then Advent Children. I'm very genuinely confused how you're going to turn that. Like, was it going to be like G-Bike, where you're just Cloud on his bike swiping at the remnants, or what? How's that going to work as a game?
It's very interesting, because like Advent Children turning, that is going to be probably the big thing. How do you turn that into a game style? But I love what they're doing with it. It's all going to have that unique the top down looking at Cloud classic Final Fantasy 7 PS1 style exploration, and so it should essentially not be that difficult, hopefully, whereas you're just playing the way that you would play the original anyway, and then when you get into a battle, it's that remake style graphics, which is going to be mind-blowing for games like Before Crisis or Advent Children, and seeing things like that and battling in that style is going to be really cool. But
how big is that going to be? Because I feel like I'm going to need to get a second phone just to play it.
What did they say? Was it 10? Chat, help me out here. Was it 5 or 10 parts? Like, and it was going to be released monthly. I can't remember. But yeah, it'll be a monthly release, and I think they're going to tackle the original first, or they're going to release like simultaneously, maybe. Like,
I heard that it was good that at least the OG was going to be 10 chapters long, and that the first chapters were going to take place in Midgar, and then the remaining 7 chapters are the rest of the story.
Right. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
But
and
see,
then
like,
go ahead.
10 chapters just for like the original, like I think the name of the game was Ring. It was made by Square for iOS, and that was like a 8 gigabyte game, and it was fairly short. So like, is each part like, to have the graphics were pretty good on it, but to have like remake style graphics every time you go into a battle, and then you have like all of this other like data inside of it, like, is it going to be like am I going to need to get another phone, like a 250 gigabyte phone to play this
big game?
thing? Yeah.
It might do like up. Well, I don't know. Like as you go through, it might be like, okay, you've reached chapter 2. We can delete chapter 1 off of your phone now. You know what I mean? Maybe something like that. But okay, all right. Anything else, Zell? I think you were going to say something.
Yeah. Like just one thing. I just wish people would be nice to each other, like in the fan base. Like here's the thing. FF7 is infamous for having like a toxic fan base, like with the shipping wars and whatnot. Like, be nice to each other. Don't go after people who don't ship the same people that you do. Don't dox them. Like, be nice, okay? Like, like the funny thing is that after, like, during the post-launch of every Final Fantasy game, like, everybody's wholesome. Everybody's like nice to each other, and then like 5 months later, they're like up on each other's throats for no reason.
I am so sure that you guys have experienced it so much more than we have, but thankfully, I will say, thankfully, we have not seen that kind of toxicity, which is so great. I know TifaTheMonk, I'm sure you've seen some kind of toxicity, but like with shipping, it's so interesting because I feel like it's just a testament to the character development. I think it's just that these characters are so well written, and it's real. You know, the relationships are real, whereas there's no clear cut black and white. Like it's just a real. It feels real. It's complicated. You know, there's death, there's grief that you have to. You know, all of this
exactly.
So yeah, I mean, you ship who you want. I don't care. I love seeing it on my timeline. To be honest with you, I've seen so many different things.
Like you do you, but don't kill the vibe. Don't
exactly
go after people.
Right. I've seen things where I'm like, okay, whatever. It just keeps scrolling. Just keep scrolling. You know what I mean? It doesn't bother you. Like, you know, it's not going to affect you.
Yeah, don't engage, basically.
Don't engage. Just keep scrolling. I've seen it so many times where I'm just like, oh, that's interesting, and then just keep moving. You know what I mean? But yeah, so very, very well said, Zell. I hope that more people take that advice. Like, just be good to each other. As I've said, and I said it was going to be my closing statement, but I never said it again. But be a warrior of light. Don't be a cloud of darkness. You know what I mean?
Well said.
Yeah. All right, guys. So I do want to make a quick announcement about our art contest. If you're watching this and you're an artist, enter into our art contest. We are going to be giving away $100 guaranteed to the winner. And it's going to take place live on Twitch. We'll show the art in a bracket style thing. You can vote for your favorite. And then as it gets to the top 3, excuse me, the top 3 comes down. So you get $100 guaranteed if you win. But any money raised during the stream, any donated subs, any bits thrown, or any money raised during the stream will go to the top 3. So first place will receive $100 guaranteed plus 40% of fan donated money raised. Second place receives 35%. Third place 25%. So just to support the artist, hopefully this will allow more eyes on the art,
spotlight the community.
Exactly. So if you're a fan of one artist and then you see this new artist, maybe you can become a fan of both of, and you see more, get more art into your life. And to enter, all you have to do is go to Final Fan TV's Twitter, the quote the retweet. It's the pin tweet on our page. Quote it. Be sure to include the hashtag FFTVArt, and then submit your art that way. No, not safe for work, just because I'm unsure of how Twitch will handle that. But no, not safe for work. We're accepting digital and traditional art, even though cosplay I firmly believe is an art. We won't be doing that this time. Maybe we'll do a cosplay submission some other day, or contest some other day. 1 submission per artist, and the theme is Final Fantasy fun in the sun. So like summertime themes. So just draw anything Final Fantasy and fun in the sun. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that.
It doesn't have to be 7. It could be anything Final Fantasy. It's not just subjugated to 7.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yes. Yeah, it's broad Final Fantasy for you guys. All right. Now we do have a very exciting announcement to make, and I'm excited about this one.
I'm super excited.
And when I made the promo, guys, Zell, Tifa, I was just like, listen, I'm hyping myself up. You know what I mean? I was like, this is hype. I love it.
Nice.
All right, so I'm gonna play the promo, and then we'll close out the show. All right, guys. All right, here we go. Let me mute us. All right, there it was. That was our big announcement. We will be having a cast interview with the Intergrade cast. Really excited for this. That's 3 of the guests that are confirmed to be on the show, and that's going to be June 12th at 12 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. So very excited for that. And we will be announcing more guests as we can confirm them at later dates. So I asked you earlier on Twitter, how do you like your big news announcements? And it was very tied, tease me weekly or give it to me big. And I was just like, all right, well, I'll just do both. So there it is, guys. Well, I appreciate Zell and Tifa. I appreciate you guys staying a little bit longer than we agreed on. I'm sorry about that. I tried to.
Thank you for having us.
Hey,
it was a great time.
Very awesome points. Yeah,
I
I loved it, and it was so great that it worked out this way too. Because I was like, yeah, when they when they do something big, let's talk. And then, sure enough, when we scheduled it, it happened to fall the day after a big news event. It was, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they timed it perfectly.
Yeah, perfect. Well, it was an absolute pleasure to talk to you both. And Ella, if you're watching, thank you for giving us a little bit of time at the beginning of the show. We really enjoyed talking to you as well. Zell, thank you. And once again, check out Zell's, it's written by Zell, .wordpress.com, or you can follow them on Twitter. Go ahead, guys, and give your Twitter handles.
Mine is at TifaTheMonk on Twitter.
Mine is at ThisIsXel.
Very good. This is Zell. All right, and that's XEL, by the way. And as always, it has been an absolute blast to bring a Final Fan TV Final Podcast to you guys live. I hope you enjoyed the announcement. We'll be posting that announcement on Twitter for everyone to see in just a moment. And Vinny, thank you, man. Thanks for tagging along, bro.
Always a good time.
Always a good time. I got fighter. All right. There it is. All right, guys. You guys have a great night. I'll talk to you later.